It was the kind of Nebraska heat that doesn't just sit on your skin, it presses down into your bones. Late August, and the air in the car was thick and heavy, smelling of old fast food wrappers and the faint, sweet scent of Vanessa's perfume. We were in my beat-up Ford Focus, the AC wheezing like an asthmatic old man, barely pushing out a lukewarm breeze. We were on our way back from a forgettable weekend in Omaha, nothing but flat, endless fields of corn and soybeans stretching out to a horizon that never seemed to get any closer. Vanessa was in the passenger seat, her head leaned back against the rest, eyes closed. She wasn't my girlfriend, not really, that a friend from work, maybe edging into something more. We'd gone to a mutual friend's wedding, shared a hotel room to save money, 2 queen beds and a tension so thick you could have spread it on toast. That she'd worn a little black dress to the reception, and I'd spent half the night trying not to stare at the way the fabric hugged her hips, or how the strap of her dress kept slipping off her shoulder, revealing a smooth tan line of skin that made my throat go dry. Even now, slumped in her seat in a simple gray tank top and cut-off denim shorts, she was a distraction. The shorts were frayed at the edges, riding up high on her thighs. One of her sandals was off, her foot propped on the dash, and I could see the delicate bones of her ankle, the pink polish on her toes chipped from dancing. Every time she shifted, the hem of her shorts crept higher, and I'd have to force my eyes back to the 2-lane highway, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. It was a stupid, primal reaction, this buzz of want that hummed under my skin, especially when I was tired and strung out from driving. It felt inappropriate, almost guilty, but I couldn't seem to switch it off. "I can't take this anymore," she mumbled, her voice husky with sleep. She stretched, arching her back, and the tank top pulled tight across her chest. "I feel like I'm marinating in my own sweat. Isn't there somewhere we can stop? This car smells like a locker room." I glanced at the fuel gauge. "Yeah, we're getting low anyway. There's a place up ahead, I think. Just outside Kearney. Got a gas station and one of those automated car washes." "A car wash? In this dust bowl?" "God, yes. Maybe it'll blow the stink out of this thing." 10 minutes later we were pulling off the highway onto a cracked asphalt lot. The place was called Oasis Wash and Go, a name that felt like a cruel joke. It was a single, sad-looking gas pump island and a long, tunnel-like building housing the automated car wash. The whole operation was baked and bleached by the sun, surrounded by nothing but whispering cornfields. The only other sign of life was a rusty pickup truck parked near the air and water station, its Nebraska plates caked with dirt. I pulled up to the pump. "I'll get the gas. You want to go in, see if they have any cold drinks?" Vanessa nodded, sliding her sandal back on. I watched her walk toward the small convenience store attached to the bay, the way her hips swayed, the muscles in her calves flexing with each step. The screen door slammed shut behind her with a sound like a gunshot in the quiet afternoon. I was just finishing up at the pump when I noticed the man. He was standing by the entrance to the car wash tunnel, just standing there. He was tall and gaunt, dressed in faded blue coveralls that were too big for him, the cuffs pooling around his work boots. He wasn't doing anything. Not holding a hose, not checking equipment. Just staring into the dark mouth of the wash bay. There was something unnerving about his absolute stillness amidst the buzzing flies and the heat shimmer rising from the asphalt. I shook it off. Probably the attendant, bored out of his skull. This place couldn't have much business. Vanessa came back out, holding 2 bottles of water beaded with condensation. "They've got a guy in there who looks like he hasn't slept since the Reagan administration," she said, handing me one. The cold bottle was a shock against my palm. "But the water's cold." "Let's get this done," I said, nodding toward the car wash. I drove up to the payment kiosk. The instructions were simple. Swipe your card, select your wash, drive into the bay when the light turns green, and put the car in neutral. The whole place had a low, mechanical hum, the sound of dormant machinery. I chose the basic rapid rinse, paid, and the light flickered green. As I eased the car forward into the gloom, I saw the man in the coveralls again. He was inside now, standing against the tiled wall, partly obscured by the giant rollers and hanging cloth strips. He wasn't looking at me. His head was tilted down, as if studying the wet concrete floor. A prickle of unease went down my spine. Why was he in here? Shouldn't he be outside? The massive door rattled down behind us, sealing us in, The sudden shift from blinding sun to fluorescent-lit gloom was disorienting. The air changed too, damp, smelling strongly of chemical lemon and mildew. "Kinda creepy in here," Vanessa said, pulling her legs up onto the seat and hugging her knees. The position made her tank top gap, offering a glimpse of the lace edge of her bra. I looked away, my face feeling hot. "It's just a car wash," I said, more to reassure myself than her. The machinery whirred to life with a hydraulic sigh. The light bars above us flashed and the sprayers activated, a sudden deafening roar of water hitting the roof and windshield. Soapy foam cascaded down the glass, turning the world outside into a blurry, sudsy mess. That's when I saw him clearly for the first time through the driver's side window distorted by soap and water. The man was standing right beside my car. Not near it. Right beside it, his coveralls were dark with moisture. His face was long and pale, with deep-set eyes that seemed to be fixed directly on me. That he wasn't blinking, that he held something in his hand. A long metallic tool, maybe a wrench or a pry bar. That he wasn't moving. Just standing there watching us as the soap covered him, streaking down his face and clothes. "What the hell?" I muttered. Vanessa followed my gaze. What is it?" The roar of the water was too loud, she had to shout. "That guy," I said, pointing. But as the rinse cycle began, blasting the soap away, the spot where he'd been standing was empty. Nothing but wet, white tile. A trick of the light, the soap distorting things that it had to be. The big rollers started then, massive cloth tentacles slapping against the hood and windshield, rocking the car. That we were pushed forward into the darkness of the tunnel. Vanessa let out a little yelp of surprise and laughed, a nervous, tight sound. "Jesus, that's aggressive." I forced a laugh too, but my eyes were scanning the bay around us. Between the thrashing of the rollers and the spray of the water, it was impossible to see anything clearly. Flashes of light, swirling cloth, and cascading water. My heart was beating a little too fast. It was just a car wash. A weird, lonely car wash in the middle of nowhere. Then the car stopped. It wasn't a jolt. It was a gentle, firm cessation of movement. The rollers were still moving, the water was still spraying, but we were stationary, stuck. "Why did we stop?" Vanessa asked, her voice losing its playful edge. "I don't know," I said, pressing the gas pedal gently. The engine revved, but the car didn't budge. It was held fast. Must be a glitch in the system. We sat there for a full minute, trapped in the mechanical storm. The noise was overwhelming, a constant, vibrating thunder. Water dripped from a seal somewhere inside my door, forming a dark spot on the carpet. The air felt close, claustrophobic. "Well, this is great," Vanessa said, trying to sound light. She shifted, and her bare knee brushed against my leg. A jolt, entirely unrelated to fear, went through me. I could feel the warmth of her skin through my jeans. She didn't move her leg away. The combination of being trapped, the unnerving encounter with the attendant, and her proximity was a confusing cocktail of anxiety and arousal. I found myself staring at the way a droplet of water had trickled from the window sill onto her thigh, tracing a path down toward the frayed edge of her shorts. I had a sudden, insane impulse to reach out and wipe it away. A shadow fell across her window. The man was there again. He was bent over, his face close to the glass, peering in. His features were sharp and angular, his skin sallow under the fluorescent lights. His eyes were the palest blue I'd ever seen, almost colorless. They weren't looking at me this time, they were fixed on Vanessa. Specifically on her legs. His expression was blank, utterly vacant, but his gaze was intense, possessive. He lifted one hand and placed his palm flat against the glass, right beside her head. His fingers were long, the nails dirty. Vanessa screamed. A raw, terrified sound that cut through the mechanical noise. She scrambled away from the window toward me, her body pressing against my side. I could feel her trembling. Oh my God, who is that?" My own fear was instantly cold, dousing any other feeling. "Hey!" I shouted, though I knew he couldn't hear me. I hit the horn, a pathetic, muffled bleat against the car wash's roar. The man didn't flinch. He didn't react at all. He just kept staring at Vanessa with that hollow, hungry look. Then, slowly, he dragged his hand down the glass, leaving a trail in the water. And then the car lurched forward again. The movement was so sudden it threw Vanessa back against her seat. The rollers pushed us on, through the final rinse and the spot-free sheen. The giant door at the end of the tunnel began to rattle upward, revealing the blinding white light of the Nebraska sun. I twisted in my seat, looking back into the receding gloom of the wash bay. The man was gone. We shot out into the open air. I slammed on the brakes, throwing the car into park. My hands were shaking on the wheel. Both of us were breathing heavily, the inside of the car suddenly silent except for our ragged breaths and the drip 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 of water from the bodywork. "What the fuck was that?" Vanessa whispered, her voice trembling. She had her arms wrapped tightly around herself. "Did you see him? Did you see how he was looking at me?" "I saw him," I said, my throat tight. I looked toward the convenience store. The rusty pickup was still there. No sign of the man in the coveralls. "Stay here. Lock the doors. Don't leave me here," she pleaded, her eyes wide with panic. "I'll be right there," I said, pointing to the storefront. "Just going to ask what the hell that was about." I got out, my legs feeling unsteady. The heat hit me like a wall. The car gleamed, spotless and beaded with water. I walked quickly to the store, the screen door whining as I pushed it open. A bell jingled overhead. The store was small, cold from an overworked AC unit, and smelled of stale coffee and artificial cherry slushy. An old man with a deeply lined face and a trucker's cap sat on a stool behind the counter, reading a newspaper. He looked up, his eyes roomy and bored. "Yeah," he grunted. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice level, "I just went through the car wash. There was a guy in there, your attendant. He scared the hell out of my friend, was staring into the car, putting his hands on the window. What's his problem?" The old man squinted at me, then slowly folded his paper. "Ain't got no attendant." "What do you mean?" "Tall, skinny guy, blue coveralls, looked like he worked here." The old man shook his head, a slow, weary motion. "Son, I run this place by myself, have for 10 years, there ain't nobody else. You saw the mirage is all." "The mirage?" I said, incredulous. "He was right there. I'm not seeing things." The old man leaned forward, his elbows on the counter. He lowered his voice, even though we were the only two people in the store. "That wash, it gets him sometimes, especially on the rapid rinse setting. Don't know why it just stops on a certain spot. And if you're sitting in that spot when it happens, sometimes you see him." A cold knot tightened in my stomach. "See who?" "Dunno," the old man said with a shrug, as if he were talking about a glitch with the soda machine. "Fella before me said it's been happening for years, long as the wash has been here. Some say it's a mechanic got caught in the machinery back in the 70s. Some say it's just something that likes to look in, always stops on the same customer's vehicle. Always seems to take a liking to the womenfolk inside." He looked past me, out the window toward my car where Vanessa was waiting. "Your lady friend all right?" I didn't answer. I just turned and walked out, the bell jingling cheerfully behind me. The sunlight felt accusing, too bright. Everything was too normal. The cornfields rustled in a dry breeze. My clean car sat sparkling. I got back in the driver's seat. Vanessa was staring straight ahead, her knuckles white where she gripped the seat. "Well?" she asked, her voice small. "He said there's no attendant," I said quietly. I didn't tell her the rest. I couldn't. We drove in silence for the next hour. The tension in the car was different now. The flirtatious charge was gone, replaced by a cold, shared dread. Vanessa kept checking the side mirror, jumping at every truck that passed us. I tried to make conversation, but it fell flat. My mind kept replaying the image. His pale hand dragging down the glass, his eyes fixed on her thigh. We were about 30 miles down the road when Vanessa's phone buzzed. She picked it up, then frowned. "That's weird." "What?" "My photo album. It says I have a new video from today, but I didn't take any videos." She tapped the screen. A grainy, shaky video started to play. The sound was a distorted roar of water and machinery. It was a view from her side of the car, taken from her phone where it had been sitting in the cup holder. It showed the soapy chaos outside her window. Then the image stabilized as the rinse cycle cleared the soap. And there he was, the man. His face was pressed close to the glass, distorted by the water and the phone's lens, but unmistakable. The video was shot from a low angle, looking up at him. He was staring down, right into the camera. right at her. The video lasted for 10 seconds. In the last second, as the car began to move again, his lips moved. It was impossible to hear what he said over the noise, but the shape of the words was clear. 2 syllables. Vanessa. She dropped the phone like it was a live snake. It clattered to the floor mats. She began to cry, silent, shaking sobs that racked her whole body. I pulled over onto the gravel shoulder, corn stalks brushing against the side of the car. It's okay, I said, my own voice hollow. It's just some kind of glitch. A reflection, something. The lies tasted like ash. He knew my name, Mark, she choked out, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. How did he know my name? I never told anyone my name out there. I had no answer. I put my arm around her, and she collapsed against my chest, her body trembling. I could feel the frantic beat of her heart. I held her, trying to be comforting, but my mind was racing, cold with a fear I couldn't articulate. This was beyond a creepy attendant. This was something else. Something that had looked inside, seen her, and somehow learned her name. We stayed like that for a long time, until her crying subsided into hiccuping breaths. The sun began to set, painting the sky in fiery oranges and purples, a beautiful, peaceful scene that felt like a mockery. The rest of the drive was a blur. I dropped her off at her apartment. She didn't invite me in, she just got out, gave me a haunted look, and hurried inside without looking back. I drove home, my skin crawling. My own apartment felt too quiet, too empty. I took a shower, trying to wash the feeling of that place off me. The hot water felt good, but as I stood there, I kept imagining I heard the sound of spraying water, the rumble of machinery. I turned the water off, my heart hammering. Silence. I got out and toweled off. As I wiped the steam from the bathroom mirror, my phone, sitting on the sink counter, lit up. A notification. 1 new video in your gallery. My blood went cold. I hadn't taken any videos. With a trembling hand, I picked it up. I opened the gallery. There it was. A video file, timestamped from today, during the car wash. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't want to open it. I had to. I pressed play. The video was dark, shaky. It was from